I think, though, we talk a lot as an industry about recruiting talent. I think we need to talk more about retaining talent. So we estimate that over the next 10 years, we're going to need 1 million new people working in this industry. But when you break that number up, about 250 some thousand of that is new positions. The rest of it, 700,000 plus, is a result of turnover, people leaving the industry. And so if we can just do a better job of retaining talent, then the pipeline doesn't need to be that big. And one of the exciting things we've done, we received a grant from the Department of Labor to pilot apprenticeship programs, which are essentially career pathways. Mm-hmm. People can get training, they get certificates, they advance up the pathway, they get higher wages as a result of reaching certain milestones. And we found that when people go through that program, we have an 80% retention rate. Wow. That's essentially completely inverting the retention rate today. And so I think that apprenticeship model is an opportunity for the industry to address that retention issue, which then, again, as I said, means the pipeline doesn't have to be as large. So I'm pretty excited about that as an opportunity for the industry moving forward.
Yeah, if you could figure out retention, my goodness.
Yeah, you've essentially solved the problem. So we're working on it.
All right. Less serious question. Recreationally speaking, any new trends in senior living? What's the hot new sport? Is pickleball going to be the new thing?
Pickleball. You beat me to it. No, I honestly, I don't know if it's pickleball. I do know increasingly as I've been talking to providers, and it's always been sort of one of the great things of our industry is the activity that we provide, right? And so, one of the things that worries me when people talk about our aging population and lawmakers are thinking through, how we're going to solve this crisis, this long-term care crisis, their answer is to let people age in their current private residence. And that's fine. And people say that's what they want to do. But it is, that's not necessarily the right place for people to age. Now, up to a point, as long as you can, that's fine. But I'd go back to my grandmother who, she sat in her lounge or watched TV all day and ate popcorn for dinner, right? No socialization, not a lot of nutrition. But that's what we provide. We provide that activity. We provide that physical activity, that socialization. We provide that nutrition. And so I think policy makers need to be thinking about what's the right place for people to age. And up to a point, if it's in your private residence, great. But at some point, there's a rationale for moving into our communities. And again, people love it. When they move into our communities, we have a 95 plus satisfaction rate among our residents. They love it when they come into our communities. And so I think, focusing on that socialization, that physical activity is a critical piece of what we do. And we need to talk more about that.
Yeah, James, when I think of doing what you do, my head just spins. And I always ask this question on the podcast. What do you do to decompress?
That's a good question. Well, for me, it's my family. I mean, it's just, and I leave work at home. Leave work at home because now I work from home, but I leave it in this office. But I try to separate it, and when I get home,
you can do that.
I can. It's harder now though in this virtual environment. I will admit it was easier when I was in the office, 5 days a week, and I would leave the office and then come home, and now I step out and my home's right there. But I think that's critically important, that work-life balance, and we try to do that with our entire team.
All right, last question. You're going on a long car ride. What music are you listening to?
Actually, it's funny you should mention that. So I'm a big Dave Matthews fan.
Okay.
But last night, my son, J. Cole, I think it is. He just got an album, and I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm listening it, and I've got like 14 more minutes. Like, he was fanatical about it. He had to finish the album. So he came down. I was like, all right, well, let's hear it. I was impressed. So that might be my new one.